This is a self-elected Ape of the Year, and today I'm going to do the first part of my startup tutorial series that I promised you guys to do about 1 year ago. And better late than never, right? Once again, I'm going to do this archive where I will show you how to start all the different kinds of planes of all the different kinds of simulations that I fly. So, Cliffs of Dover, Battle of Stalingrad, Rise of Flight, and yeah, I will show you how to take off, what you need to do to get the machine up in the air, and how to land again. So today we're going to start with the Bf109 E4. So first of all, some basic information. Right here, you open the canopy, you close it again there too, and right here, above that, you can open and close a little side window. This is not something you don't really need to know, but just a little side information. Now we are going to start the takeoff procedure. First of all, we are going to set the magnetos in a position 1+2. Then we are going to enable the fuel by flipping over this little handle here. Then we are going to make sure that the throttle is in the right position, somewhere around here. Then we are going to open the oil cooler to the left with this little yellow thing there. Then we are going to the right and open the water cooler, the radiator. And when this thing is rolling against the clockwork direction, you're opening it, and in clockwork direction, you're closing it again. So now we are going to make sure that it's all the way opened. And we are going to enable the gunsights right here. So now everything is being done and the plane is more or less ready to go. Now there is just one little tricky thing left. And this is the only thing that you cannot control directly by clicking in the cockpit. You need a button to disable the prop pitch automatic. And right now we are in the E4. In the E1, for example, we wouldn't be pressured to do that. And the thing is, if you just take off and you don't disable the prop pitch automatic for the takeoff, you are going to have the experience that your plane is running pretty crappy. The reason for this is that the revolutions per minute are going to be stuck at around 2000 RPMs. And we can avoid this by first disabling the prop pitch automatic and then manually setting it to the fine position, 12 o'clock. And in the German planes, 12 o'clock is the fine position. It's a low gear, and the higher your airspeed becomes, the higher you want to put the gear. So in this plane you will lower the prop pitch then. And you will just do this in order to make sure that your RPMs are not going over a certain amount, above 2500. And as soon as you go above 2500, you're going to destroy your engine, slowly but surely. So you will want to keep it below this critical number, and the optimum number is 2300. So in the E1, for example, where you don't have a prop pitch automatic, you want to do this all the time manually. Keep an eye on the RPMs and use a prop pitch to keep the RPMs in the healthy amount. So, but right here in the E4, we are also pressured to do something with this, and this is, like I told you, set it to manual, and then make sure that you manually set it to the fine position 12 o'clock. After you have taken off, you can enable the automatic again, and you won't have to bother with this anymore. But you first want to make sure that you are above 2000 RPMs, and then you enable the automatic. So set up these keys: enabling, disabling the prop pitch automatic, and lowering or raising your prop pitch. So now after we have done this, everything is ready to go. We are now going to hit the ignition, step on the brakes, and while the inertia wheel is rolling, I will just explain the instruments. Right here we have the altitude, below that we have the airspeed. To the right here we have the slip ball, and this slip ball is showing you if you fly coordinated, and this means flying coordinated means flying with the least amount of air resistance. And if this little black thing here is going to the left or to the right, you are beginning to fly uncoordinated, and you are getting higher amounts of air resistance. So to fly the most energy efficient, you want to keep this little slip ball right here in the middle. And for example, if you go faster, the slip ball, or it depends on the situation, on the wind, for example, and if this slip ball goes to the left, for example, you want to push the left rudder. And if it goes to the right, you want to push the right rudder. And pilots say, or this is a term, some viewer a few weeks ago told me, that this is called stepping on the ball. So if you step on the ball, for example, because it's here to the right, it will go back to the middle. So if it's wherever it is, to the left or to the right, step on it and make it go back in the middle. So above that we have the compass. Right here to the right we have the ATA. The ATA shows you how much fuel you're using, and this is a very good thing to know if you are willing to fly with somebody else in a formation or something. It's always very tricky to have the same speed, and whenever you just tell somebody what airspeed you are, it's all going to be a little bit complicated. It's much easier to just tell the other one what ATA you are running at the moment. So he knows, okay, whenever he is about approximately as fast as you, he just sets his engine to the same RPM, and you are both flying with the same speed. This is going to make formation flying a lot easier, just using this ATA right here. Below that we have the RPMs, the revolutions per minute, and to the right we have the prop pitch. And the prop pitch, I already described everything about it. Especially in the E1, for example, you will need to do this all the time manually and keep the RPMs at a healthy amount. So now we are going to taxi. We are taxiing by using the air brakes, left and right air brake. Not air brake, wheel brake. And if you use the rudder too much, you will spin out of control pretty easily. So make sure you don't use the rudder too much. Just use the brakes in order to taxi. Now here is not really a runway, so I'm just going to stay here because I'm just on a big field. When you are at the airstrip, at the beginning of the runway, you just go on your brakes, and just a little thing in addition, in the Bf109 it's not really necessary to use your flaps. But if you want to use your flaps, you can lower this wheel here and make your flaps go down or up. But like I said, in the Bf109 for takeoff there is no need to use your flaps. The next thing, there also is no need to lock the tail wheel, at least not in this simulation right here. So we can just forget about this. In some other simulations you need to press the tail down in order to not lose control over the plane, because the tail wheeler plane starts to get out of control if the tail wheel is not pressed down and forced to point forwards. So it will do whatever it wants and you will lose control. So right here this is not needed, so just no typical thing to know. Just go to the runway, then go on the brakes, push the throttle completely up, go off the brakes and apply a little bit of right rudder to keep the machine pointing forwards. Now we are going to wait for the machine to accelerate a little bit. You can push it down a little bit if you want to. Make sure that you don't hit the ground with your propeller. And then at around 200 kilometers per hour you pull the machine up into the air. As soon as you've done this, you can raise the gear. You do it right here on this little handle. And now you hear that the revolutions are getting higher. And we are putting the automatic back into service. In the E1 now, for example, we will have to keep an eye on the prop pitch and keep an eye on the RPMs the whole time that we fly. But in the E4 it's a little bit easier. You just enable the automatic again. And now that we have enabled the automatic above 2000 RPMs, everything is running perfectly. So, this is everything we need to know in order to start this machine and to get it into the air. Now we are going to talk just a little bit about the machine, about the Bf109. I'm not going to go too much into the details because I already have a very strategic tutorial that's It's called How to Win Against Multiple Spitfires, and there I'm talking about all the different kinds of strategies you can use. And yeah, if you are interested in how to fly the Bf109 successfully, I suppose that you go and take a look at this tutorial. But right here I'm just going to go over the very basic stuff. So the Bf109 is an energy fighter, so it's not a turn fighter. And this means that you want to avoid turning too hard. For example, horizontally turning like this, you are going to bleed all your energy, and this is not good, especially not in the 109. So get some altitude first, and from there on you maneuver in the vertical manner. So diving down, getting some airspeed, going back up, typical thing for an energy fighter. So this is just the basic stuff. If you want to know more, take a look on my channel and search for the tutorials, especially the one that's called How to Win Against Multiple Spitfires. So now I'm going to land this machine, and we are going to go through a very, very useful and simple way for beginners. Right here we have this runway. I'm going to pick a runway first, and I want to land there. So what I'm doing is I'm going to fly parallel to this runway, and I'm going to go off the throttle and make sure that I'm bleeding my speed a little bit. I want to be at around 300 kilometers per hour. So right here I see the speed. I want to get it to around 300. And now I'm going to just continue on in this direction that the airstrip is pointing, the runway is pointing. And the more time I'm flying in this direction, the more time I will have later on the final approach. So if you feel not so confident, continue on for a little bit longer. Now we are below 300 even, so I'm going to go back on the throttle again, and I'm going to do a curve to point back to the runway. While this curve is happening, I'm lowering my flaps now, and within this curve, within this turn, you lower your airspeed even more. So make sure that you don't get too slow now. You want to be at around 200 kilometers per hour. Now I'm going to lower the gear and lower the throttle even more. Like I said, we want to approach the runway at around 200 kilometers per hour. I'm even going to be forced to brake a little bit more because I'm getting too fast. You ideally won't have to do that. Now, very shallow approach. I'm very, very gently touching the runway, jumping up once, and on the second jump you should be able to touch down with your tail wheel too. Now I'm going to brake with the right wheel brake, a little bit with the left wheel brake, and we're coming to a stop. So now we can raise the flaps again, we can open the canopy, switch off the magnetos, and this is it. This is how you take off and how you land with the Bf109 E4. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm going to put up more tutorials like that. Every week I will from now on do one plane. And if you have one plane that you really, really want me to do, tell me in the comments. I will basically go over all the different planes for all the different kinds of simulations. So, this was the Self-Elected Ape of the Year, signing off.